This is Women's Leadership Success, episode number 136. This month, we're revisiting Patricia Walsh's inspiring journey to overcome limiting beliefs about her abilities as a blind person and her striving for excellence as a tech engineer and Paralympic gold medalist. Patricia faced significant challenges when she became blind at 14. Yet she refused to let her disability define her, embracing it as part of her identity and pushing herself to achieve what many thought was impossible. Curious to learn how she's been faring, we tracked Patricia down in London, England, where she's been living for the past 5 years. She recently transitioned from her role as technology product manager at Facebook to a new position as senior engineering manager at the Lego Group, where she oversees several departments. In talking with Patricia, it reminded me of something I advise my coaching clients to do. Don't focus on your weaknesses or handicaps, but focus on your strengths and talents to have the best life and career possible. Join us as Patricia shares her excitement about her new life in London, the unique, unexpected challenge she's encountered, and how she keeps building on her strengths and talents.
Welcome to Women's Leadership Podcast, showing you how to influence people, improve your performance, and advance your career. Brought to you by women's leadership and career expert Sabrina Brahm and womensleadershipsuccess.com. Here's your chance to meet women trendsetters leading the way to success, accomplishment, and balance in business and life. No matter if you're a manager, CEO, or entrepreneur, join Sabrina for coaching and no-nonsense advice to improve your career and bottom line.
This is Women's Leadership Success, and the road to success. There are short conversations, and today we're talking to Patricia Walsh, the woman that we just had her show on, Blind Ambition, and we also have a article in LinkedIn about Patricia that she doesn't even know about yet, but there's an article up about you. And Patricia, thank you so much for joining me. You're in London, correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's so lovely to reconnect with you after, quite a few years have passed. But I moved from Austin, Texas to New York in 2017 with Dow Jones, where I moved up. At the time I left Dow Jones, I was director of engineering and had relocated here to London, where I was leading a few teams here in London. They were all software engineers and data engineers. Then I went and did 3 years at Facebook, where I really learned a lot and really sharpened my technology skills and worked specifically in integrity. So that's models to identify bad actors on Facebook to reduce harm, for surface area for harm, and make it a safer place for issues like scams, spam, romance scams, election interference. So it was quite an interesting phase of life because I would go to work and what I was working on was on the news that day, every day. So it was quite exciting. And I've recently, last September, taken a new role where I'm a senior engineering manager for the Lego Group, where I manage a few teams. Actually, I'm in London, but they're all based in Copenhagen. So I'm here in London and living my best life. Minute by minute. Yeah.
That is so great. And my husband and I, we read a book a book daily. And right now we're reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Oh yeah, it's very good. I read it years ago, but it's really a profound book, isn't it?
It is. And this is my second time reading it. It's definitely worth reading again. You get so many different insights that you wouldn't get otherwise, I think. But towards the end of the book, he's talking about what makes a person mentally healthy. And he said that we shouldn't be looking for homeostasis. We should be looking for where we are and where we want to be. And that there should always be a little bit of a gap that we're pushing towards. And, one of the things that was so inspiring about your book and your story was the gap, the going blind, being really depressed, kind of giving up hope, meeting John Gardner. Is that his name?
That's right, yeah. The physics professor from Oregon State. Yeah.
And just his he became blind later in life, so he didn't have the limiting beliefs that the people around you had, that you were limited, that you were basically a handicapped person that couldn't do anything. And it spurred you on to, what were the sports things that you actually accomplished?
Oh, well, that's ongoing. So I have completed over 20 marathons, 2 ultra marathons. I've done 2 Ironman, where I have the world record in Ironman triathlon. I went on to compete for Team USA, where I'm a 5-time national champion, 7-time international gold medalist. You can see behind me, I have quite a wall of various championships. I went to the 2016 Paralympics, 4-time Pan American champion, 2012 Athlete of the Year. I didn't get these in order. Then I went on to represent, I did make it to, I quit triathlon and I went into rowing, where I did go on to Olympic trials, but then did not make the team. And actually something new to say, I'm now doing CrossFit, and I just qualified for the adaptive CrossFit Games this year. So I'm currently ranked 8th in the world, but it's really a remarkably humbling moment in my life, because it's a sport that isn't endurance based, so it's not really working on my strength, and it's going to a complete opposite extreme of fitness and more weightlifting and high intensity, which is a world apart from what I've done in the past. So yeah, that's it. It's kind of where I'm at. So I'm actually competing in the States in about 2 months' time.
And whereabouts?
Actually in San Antonio, Texas, very near Austin.
Yeah. This little segment of the show will be out probably next week. So
brilliant.
So people could actually come see you if they're in San Antonio.
Yeah, come to San Antonio, Texas. It's between the 19th and the 23rd of September. But I do not know the location off the top of my head, but I will look that up.
Okay, we'll put that on the show notes. Where
the Adaptive CrossFit Games, yeah.
So you've continued to do that, and over these years, what have you learned that could be helpful to people listening? You know, we all have some kind of disability or something, and
it's such a great question.
Yeah,
I think one thing that I feel like I have to explain a lot, and I really will do my best to give a good explanation. But one thing I think we all can benefit from is, yes, knowing when to ask for help, but also not assuming someone needs your help. So something that I find a cultural shock living in the UK is that there's a real generosity and a kindness here, which is lovely. But I think there's also a belief that you should help someone with a disability. And that's not on its face wrong, but the way it impacts me is I will walk out my door, go to the train station, and maybe on my route to work, which I'm perfectly capable of doing, I might have 4 or 5 people grab my elbow on a given day. And sometimes it's more than that. Which, yeah, thank you for reacting. Because to me, it's actually, first of all, they grab my arm that has a cane in it. So this is, in my world, it's like someone covering up your eyes. You know, like I had someone do it to me on stairs the other day.
Oh God! Does it make you want to learn Aikido so you could start just chopping people?
It's funny that you say that, because the reality is, the first 2 or 3 times it happens to me in a day, I'll say, "Excuse me, if a person with a disability is not asking for help, they probably don't need your help, and maybe just give them some personal." So I'll give like a polite but well-rehearsed answer. But when it's going to be the 4th or 5th time someone has grabbed me, it really does escalate, because it creates a lot of anxiety for me, because I want my own personal space and my own autonomy and my own sense of independence. And it doesn't make me feel anything positive to know that someone sees me and assumes that I cannot help myself. That is not a kindness to me. And I think it's just this ongoing struggle of explaining that. And because it becomes landmines of, yes, if I ask for help, then do help me. If someone with a disability does ask, then yes, help them. But just don't make assumptions or don't help them without asking them. Like, a person should have a voice in how they're helped. And I think that's true for disability, but it's probably a bit true for everyone. There are moments where all of us need some help, but we really have an opportunity to communicate what is helpful to us, you know?
Yes.
So that's been a cultural shock, and it's quite a difficult one to explain to people because they always are explaining to me that it's well-intentioned. And that's not lost on me, but it's also having a cause of anxiety to me, you know?
Yeah, it's somebody invading your personal space a lot.
Constantly.
And you know, I'm thinking I was in Thailand and a man took my arm and I just had an instant reaction of yelling at him, "Don't touch me." And to have 5 or 6 people do that through the day that you don't know, just, and you're not even expecting it, that would be really, really difficult.
Yeah. It is exhausting. I did a little informal study. So I did like over a week's time, kind of tallied how many times it happens in a day, and it's an average of 7 times a day.
Wow.
So, you know, you can see where it becomes a limiter, because there are days where you are a little fatigued and you just don't want to go out because you don't want to face this. So when I think of the limitations of blindness, it's not actually to do with not being able to see my environment. I have no issue walking out my house, getting to the train station, making it to work. That's never been a problem.
Uh-huh.
But what becomes a barrier is when I don't want to deal with how people react to me, when really all I wanted was just to kind of have some personal space and live my life and have the autonomy that I've deserved just like anyone else. So I think that's one thing that I've learned that I think would, you know, is good for us all to bear in mind. And now, you know, as I move more into management roles, it's a question I ask people as well. Like, how do you want to receive feedback? How do you want to be helped? What support do you need? Because I think it could be such a mismatch if you sort of make an assumption of what's supportive to someone that actually might be creating different problems for them that you didn't even know about, you know?
Right. Yeah. I'm thinking, so my background, I was a psychotherapist, and I think my whole life giving advice to people was something I did. And that's how I started out doing therapy. And as a coach now, I don't give a lot of advice. You're more finding out from people. But I was at my son's house and he was ironing a shirt. And I am really good at ironing shirts. I could get a whole shirt ironed in like 5 minutes. And I could see he was doing it wrong and it was going to take a long time and it was going to get wrinkled and all this stuff. But I had learned something the hard way to ask if the person wanted help. And I said, "Eric, would you like me to show you how to iron a shirt?" And he looked up and smiled and said, "No."
Yeah.
And I usually ask, would you like a suggestion? Would you like advice? Would you like help? And it's amazing how many times people will say, "No, I don't really want that right now."
Yeah. But I think it's so telling. And I think that the risk and the cost is, if you were to have offered help when someone is not in a mindset to take on any support, which is also valid, then all you do is create a defensive posture. You just create a pushback. And even sometimes someone committing to their positions, you know, it's a stronghold. So if it also is not having a moment or opportunity to build a bridge with someone. So it's something I do think about quite often. And even as I come across people who I don't know what support they want or need from me, whether it be disability or language barrier or however, you know, it can be lots of different things when you're living in a big city.
I think we need to get better at saying, "I don't need any help right now," or I want to really think this through myself.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. What I find is I tell people not to help and they hold on tighter and they're like, "No, it's fine. I don't mind." No. Yeah. But you're not my top priority. You know? I'm watch out for me. And then I always end up in these conversations about, I was well intentioned. I'm just trying to help. Like just move on. Just move on. I'm just trying to live my life.
I'm not trying to do therapy on you right now. Oh my God.
Yeah. I'll call you and give you on FaceTime. You can tell them.
So
yeah, no, I think in terms of other things that I've learned that I think have helped me recently, I had a coach whilst I was at Dow Jones that really taught me the importance of giving like a meaningful apology from time to time, even if it was a misunderstanding, or if you thought you were right, but you only had your point of view, or even just at the end of the day, you just fundamentally disagree. I think it certainly builds a bridge to acknowledge when you could have done something differently. But I also think it has changed. That bit of advice I received has sort of changed the way I look at my own behavior and having more of a willingness to see where I had fault. Because if you think about it, in my world, there's nothing more difficult to work with than someone who will never admit when they're wrong. So I think that little bit of advice has been such a gem to not become that person.
Yeah, and that's been a hard one for me. I was raised in a blue-collar family where nobody apologized, or there weren't any niceties said. So I've had to learn to apologize, but not just when I'm wrong, but when I don't think I did anything, but the other person's feelings are hurt or they're
100%.
feeling bad.
It's huge. And actually, it's so important. It's a really great point you make, because I will admit that even still after years of having sort of a practice of acknowledging that sometimes it's just, I'm sorry that this isn't going well, there are moments where it still kind of kills me to do it. Like, I don't think I was wrong. But it's just the benefit. I mean, I think for the moments where it does kill me a little bit versus the moments where I am having a clarity of thought where I did do something and owning that, because it is a bit of a spectrum, really. But it's really done a lot in terms of the relationships that I have and the openness in communication, and taking the heat out of a situation from time to time and getting us past these defensive moments that we all have. So it is something that I have found really powerful, and it was really some great advice that I received, although it has been, years of trying.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, and that's, we all are imperfect. We're 80% we're great, and there's a 20% that we have to deal with parts of ourselves that are so imperfect that we wish were better, but they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when you're trying really hard, it's still
compassion towards yourself for that imperfection.
Yeah.
And compassion for the other ones. Anything else in terms of
I think
personal growth?
Thank you. I think the last thing I might add that I struggle with for a long time, or something I've really learned, it might be a bit cliche, is being authentic to yourself. And I think where I've struggled here is that I'm actually very sincerely care about people's feelings and very sincerely care that people are treated fairly. And I think more of a gentle person in the world, but you're also existing in these very hyper competitive environments. And I think it's really hard to be both those things, whether it be, Lego's not quite as cutthroat, but Facebook surely was. And obviously competing at sports really can be. So there's a switch that flips in your head. And I think I've really, having done this for a long time, gotten into a mindset more of, yes, there's the things you want to achieve and the things you want to kind of make your mark, as I wrote about in my book. But I think maybe even higher than that is, who do you want to be? I'd so much rather be someone that is trusted, that, can have a moment of kindness, than be someone who is always at that competitive edge. And I think that's just taken a lot of time to think about, like, how do you exist in these two ways at the same time?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I just keep going back to the people touching you. And
yeah, I don't understand. It causes me great anxiety, and I don't understand why they don't realize. Why would you defend that?
I have these silly things that come to mind, like maybe you should have an orange plastic thing that you put over your clothes that says "Don't touch."
Yeah.
Or you could every time somebody touches you could hand them a card that tells them something, or you could carry copies.
Not a bad idea.
You could carry copies of your book and say, "Here's a sign."
Well, there was a while, because I've tried many different approaches, and there was a while that I thought it would be funny to switch it on them. Say, "Oh, are you lost? Do you need help? Why are you grabbing onto me? Are you Are you really confused right now? Do you need help on the train? that really confused people. Do you need me to call someone? You seem very confused.
Well,
But it's just hard, and I think to a degree, I have to accept it because I can't change it. But I will acknowledge that it takes a toll.
yeah. I think I definitely does. And if you lose your job at Lagos, you've got a great opportunity as a stand-up comedian.
Oh, thank you. That's kind.
You are really funny.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. I don't think of myself as being really funny, but that's nice to hear.
You are. Well, we're going to end pretty quick here. Is there any last thing you'd like to share or say to people listening?
I think the only last thing I would share is that, I'm so excited about this opportunity to compete again at this adaptive CrossFit, and just how important it is for people with disabilities to have their opportunities to be held to a high standard and to show off, all that we are capable of. And I think I'm so excited to be a part of that movement that has really transformed in my lifetime. And I just couldn't be more proud. And thank you for having me. I was really excited to hear from you, and I'm thrilled.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you, and let's talk again. We'll do a catch up.
I would love that.
After your meet. I would like to hear how you did.
Yeah.
So
me too. It could go any kind of way.
Thank you for tuning in. Before you go, I have a powerful gift for you just for being a listener. It's my new Leadership and Career Advancement Scorecard, a quick, confidential, 3-minute self-assessment. Discover your leadership strengths and weaknesses instantly and get tailored suggestions on the 5 essential leadership areas of top leaders. This quiz will give you a clear idea of your leadership potential and areas for growth. Are you ready to find out how you rank compared to top leaders? Take my quick and easy quiz today. To get started, go to www.womensleadershipsuccess.com/women-leadership-scorecard, or click the link in the show notes.
Thank you for joining your host, Sabrina Brahm, on another Women's Leadership Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email her at sabrina@sabrinabrahm.com. Since 1989, Sabrina and her team have helped hundreds of women managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs with valuable trainings, articles, books, and executive coaching. For additional tips, interviews, and free access to Great Leaders Today mini course, visit www.womensleadershipsuccess.com.